and our steadfast international partners. This both painful and necessary process in the economic domain is inching us closer to decision point with all its subsequent benefits for the Somali people. In the security sector reform, the payroll reform process has already led us to phase 2, a verification and validation of the first phase, as well as HR reform. The social services sector has begun receiving its due attention, as those who were able to attend the waterside event last night with me can attest. As part of the Somali social reform, the government has successfully mobilized Somali resources to initiate a nationwide program of rebuilding key institutions in the country. This campaign, called Halgan, aims to challenge the mindset of dependency, promote social collectiveness, self-reliance, and the confidence of the different sections of the society coming together on common purposes. On inclusive politics, our most recent achievement, the Reconciliation Conference that has demonstrated the importance of the government's initiatives towards conflict resolution. That was preceded by the political settlements that led to the integration of AWSJ into the government that the international partners were part. On politics, we must recognize that major accomplishments have been attained all across, but yet much remains to be done and agreed upon. Today, however, Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, I would like to shed light on other changes that may not have necessarily been apparent or visible, but are very real and have made tremendous impact on the lives of the people and seem to have registered irreversible change in the long term. The change of mindset, a changing narrative for this nation. The magnitude of the reform agenda was not lost to our people, and the resultant change of mindset as a consequence of the reform agenda has been far-reaching, affecting entire communities both locally and in the diaspora. Let me highlight just a few. Starting off with the undeniable collaborative relationship between the President and myself. This has indeed been a huge in political culture that has allowed for continuity and a real progressive change and stability in our country. I thank my President for his leadership and wisdom. Second, our governance and reforms have been translated to hopes and aspirations coming to life wherever the people are, in remote villages, public rallies, and public political debate is becoming very important. 70% of our population made out of the youth is today more engaged in government discourse than ever before. They are awake and demand to be included. Women, persons living with disabilities, minority groups are now speaking up. And this is the testament to the opening up of the political discourse of this nation. Consequently, you will find out there is a change in the expectations from leaders and politicians as a direct result of the demand from our people, not just the traditionally engaged elites. Every day you will find regular citizens demanding better service delivery across all sectors, and this discourse is very public. In government, the expectations of every public servant has changed. They expect simple things, that they are paid regularly every month and on time. This is most critical for our men and women in uniform who are now accustomed to monthly pay since we took office. Also, as a direct result of the ongoing reform, debate on corruption is no longer a taboo, with arrests and actions taken against high-ranking government officials. Those with ill intents have found that public resources can no longer be managed without regard for accountability. And the previous culture of impunity is not tolerated anymore because the Somali people demand. The most significant indicator of our citizens' confidence is that our business community are now a key stakeholder in policy change. The business community is paying the highest taxes ever, but in return, they are demanding higher accountability. They are taking a keen interest in how government businesses run and are equally watching closely on how their investments are being utilized. Some of the unquantifiable change, in my opinion, is also this year's mutual accountability framework, where we set the bar on FGS's priorities and have had healthy debates, sometimes tough, with our international partners. This genuine and transparent dialogue is a showcase of our great working relationship between us and our partners. Our collaborative relationship has also shown that real change materializes when we work together on changing mindset, negating the old narrative, and make actual and tangible progress. This doesn't mean that all our efforts are not without challenges, ladies and gentlemen. Indeed, our fragility means that our change can be reversible, and there are those who would prefer that we remain fragile. Nonetheless, we have to continue firmly on our reform path, while at the same time finding ways to bring in all stakeholders to the table. We have to find a way of bridging the divide while ensuring that we do not revert to the old ways of doing business and politics, but migrate to the culture of enhanced public participation. We are therefore required, as Somali leaders, both from the federal government and those of the federal member states, to take advantage of this newfound voice of our people and engage them publicly and directly. As we chart new paths, our commitment to our federal structures remain resolute as we shift the real debate to how can we all work together to build the Somalia of the future. Therefore, in the coming times, we'll work on narrowed priorities, including holding open and fair elections and ensuring a peaceful transition, completion of the constitutional review process, and deepening of an institutionalizing of federalism. All this while not losing sight of the gains made so far on the investment of our international partners. Political inclusivity, dialogue, and enhanced, while not losing sight of these progresses that we've made together. Ladies and gentlemen, Excellencies, Somalia is making tremendous strides. We are ready to move forward together in this limited time we have. Together with our federal member states, both houses of parliament and the political elite, we will endeavor to chart forward to ensure that progress achieved is not set back. It is therefore my hope will keep the strategic partnership we have established and start new ones to make further progress and overcome challenges ahead for the benefit of the Somali people. I look forward to having these discussions with you today and look forward to working with you. Thank you. So now that I still have the floor, I would like to once again welcome everyone, and since we have a very tight schedule, some in-house information is that we're going to be very strict on time to ensure that our colleagues who came here today can catch their flights. Let us therefore dive into the first agenda and start with the economic reform. So let me give the floor to President Ware.
Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. Thank you, Excellency. Prime Minister, Excellencies, honored guests and friends. It's an honor for me to address this Somali Partnership Forum held this time in Mogadishu. Your participation in this event is a clear indication of the importance to which you attach the efforts to improve the security and the livelihoods of the Somali people and the economic and social development of Somalia as a nation. Your support is invaluable and we are truly grateful. Over the last 2 years, impressive progress has been made in the economic sector, sometimes over seemingly impossible odds and under difficult political, security and economic challenges. In the legislative arena, landmark legislation has been passed or is under consideration in the federal and state parliaments on public financial management, the last of which is the recently passed anti-corruption bill at the federal parliament. Under the support of the World Bank, the Somali Stability Fund and others, institutional capacities have been strengthened at the Ministries of Finance, at the federal and state levels. Country systems have started to function properly, bearing positive results, such as increase in revenue, enhanced transparency, better accountability, and improved economic performance. These reforms and others under the mutual accountability framework contribute to the progress made under the agreed upon IMF staff monitored program, where important goals have already been met and new benchmarks set. Now into the fourth SMP, the federal government of Somalia and the federal member states are committed to concluding this process to its logical conclusion. That is, accepting Somalia back into the international financial system as a certified and reliable partner. While this journey has been difficult and enormous sacrifices have been made, especially by federal member states like Hirshabelle, Southwest and Galmudug, which do not have ports, airports and other independent revenue sources, and it's an irony that they are the only ones here today, our commitment is very clear. The recent concluded Addis Ababa meeting between the Ministries of Finance of the federal government and those of the federal member states is a clear indication of the seriousness with which we approach this issue, and is testament to the fact that when needed, we can all work together for the common good, regardless of difficulties or differences on other issues. While important work is still needed to be done, and the last mile is often the most difficult one in a marathon, we are optimistic that we will soon reach the crucial decision point under the enhanced highly indebted poor countries initiative, maybe as early as this spring. If realized, debt relief for Somalia under the HIPC will immediately have positive consequences. Contrary to fears of rewarding irresponsibility, debt relief for Somalia will be life-changing. It will be the reset that will enable Somalia to achieve the long-term economic stability and the resources needed for its security and well-being. By becoming an accepted partner in the international financial system, Somalia will have finally access to the kind of resources needed for reconstruction, social and economic development. Investment that was lacking as a result of the ruin of the civil war. We are committed to this process, and we will take any sacrifice needed to achieve it. Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, the ultimate goal of our efforts is, of course, to improve the lives and livelihoods of ordinary Somalis. With a projected economic expansion rate of around 2.9% against a population growth of also 2.9%, it's clear that we need to do more. The following steps can significantly enhance our efforts to create economic expansion, encourage investment and trade, and help job opportunities, especially for youth, to prevent hopelessness and prevent radicalization. Number one, there is an urgent need to improve security, especially the opening of trade and supply routes is very much needed. The Mogadishu-Beledweyne, Mogadishu-Baidoa, and Mogadishu-Kismaayo roads, when opened, will significantly contribute to the expansion of economic activity, reduce the cost of goods and services, improve efficiency, and spur economic growth. We have also to open trade routes to neighboring countries, strive for economic integration, and improve economic opportunities across the region. Number two, we need to reduce political acrimony in order not to discourage investment and stifle economic expansion. Political harmony should be based on a simple premise: respect for the mandate of the government of the day. After all, elections have consequences. Coupled with the need to conduct political discourse in good faith and in accordance with the provisions of the draft constitution and the laws of the land. We all need to put the common interest above partisan considerations. Number three, we need a significant investment in infrastructure, both physical and human. The economic burden of poor infrastructure and the opportunities lost as a result in improving the lives of ordinary Somalis is there for all to see. I hope we can make the necessary commitment to change this state of affairs. Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, I would like to conclude by saluting the brave men and women of our armed forces, our AMISOM brothers and sisters, other friendly forces in our lands and seas, who make sacrifices on a daily basis, and we thank them for the contributions they make to ensure and contribute to the safety of our people. I would also like to thank the federal government of Somalia and our international partners for the resources and efforts they put into this endeavor. Thank you very much.
Thank you, President Ouare, for that remark. Can I now invite Minister Bailey for a few minutes? Minister Bailey.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. I know that the time is very tight. Mr. Chairman, Mr. Prime Minister, and delegates from countries and partner institutions, good morning. It's a pleasure for me always to be here to be discussing something that is very important for our country, that of debt relief and the economic progress that we are making. Mr. Chairman, I had a briefing yesterday, a full briefing of where we are, but since some of the delegates are new, I will go over a few of the main items and probably also go over the meeting that we had in Addis Ababa and the outcome of that. Mr. Chairman, as everybody knows here, our activities, almost all the activities are guided by the provisions of the SMB program. Staff Volunteer Program, particularly our economic activities, are guided by that. It provides the roadmap that has been traveled before us. We are the 37th country that goes through this. We have 3 countries left, Soomaaliya, Sudan, and Zimbabwe, and we are competing for the resources. and therefore, we are doing everything possible for us to do our part. Mr. Chairman, we had a good meeting in Addis Ababa, and I think that the testimony to that is none other than the press release provided by the IMF. We also had separate meetings, both with the Finance and Budget Committee of the Parliament, which was also coincidentally taking place in Addis Ababa, discussing one very important bill that is also a prerequisite for the debt relief, and that's the revenue bill. Myself and the chief of the IMF mission, Alison Holland, discussing with them the importance of this, and they have understood and agreed that they will also speed up the process. We also had a discussion on where we are and where we were. We have discussed the specific benchmarks that we had to complete at the end of July, and they were found to be complete. Moving forward in the future, we also found out that and confirmed that every item is on target. Of course, we still have challenges, and the challenges have to be addressed. And I think together we have agreed that we will be able to do that. But I want to say, Mr. Chairman, that moving towards the decision point is not just enough for us on our side to do what needs to be done. It is a partnership issue, Mr. Chairman, and I think the international community has a very familiar activities that they have to carry out themselves for us to be able to reach a successful decision point. That is to say, for example, all the creditors to be able to find ways to solve the debt issue. Some of them will need budget processes to take place. Some of them will provide the bridging loans for the IFIs. And in this juncture, I want to thank those countries, the UK and Norway, for forthcoming with the assistance. It also includes international community. 70% of the creditors realizing and recognizing that Somalia has traveled enough and therefore eligible for decision point. That is also very important, and that is basically IFIs plus the Paris Club together. If they agree that Somalia has traveled enough, that will, I think, take place. More importantly, I would say that if we all get together our efforts and our activities, we will be able to reach the first milestone, which is really the one we are now looking at, and that's the decision point, realizing obviously that that's not the end. It is the beginning of many things to come. We are managing a nation, as you always say, Mr. Chairman, and therefore a nation has no end. I think there will always be challenges. But finally, I want to say that decision point means that this country normalizing its relations with the international community, and more importantly, getting access to constitutional resources so this nation can be rebuilt. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Bailey. That was 4.5 minutes, so well done in keeping time. As champion for that. Can I now invite the World Bank?
Thank you very much, Mr. Prime Minister, Your Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen. Let me again express my appreciation on behalf of the World Bank Group to the Somali federal government, the Prime Minister, for hosting this event in Mogadishu. This has been, for me personally, my first visit and a fabulous experience. I'm very, very encouraged by what I have seen and what I have heard. As you know, we strongly believe that there can be no stability in Somalia without development. And I'm glad we're beginning with this session on economic reforms. We also believe that an inclusive economy is the foundation for peace. And I think the reforms that the government has been spearheading, that the Prime Minister and the Minister of Finance have outlined, set out a vision that's very coherent with these objectives. Much has been achieved, and I want to congratulate again the authorities. I think you should take pride in the progress. I don't want to recap, it's a very long list, but the more recent, the approval of the National Development Plan 9, the talking openly about corruption and moving in that arena, that's very important, and the meetings in Addis of the Finance Minister Fiscal Forum and talking about these thorny and complex issues of fiscal transfers and fiscal responsibilities across levels of government. These are very, very good and encouraging developments. However, as I've told you before, Prime Minister, this is like a bicycle race. And you have won some important stages, but more remains to be done, and there's some important stages coming ahead. In the next few months, the revenue bill, in the next few weeks, that's a vital piece of legislation that is required to underpin fiscal stability. And further progress on the federal fiscal issues with the federal member states. I know that consultations are going on as we speak in Garowe. These things are vital. We agreed yesterday that reviving the economy is increasingly urgent, and for peace in Somalia to hold, the economy needs to generate jobs, education for urban youth, livelihoods for farmers, social protection for the vulnerable. And we really look forward to the next stage when we can get to the normalization of relations with the international financial institutions. There we will be able to broaden the scope of World Bank support for the agenda of inclusive economic development. We'll be able to use IDA grants for human capital, development for institution building. We'll be able to use the IFC and MIGA to improve the business climate, to strengthen the financial sector, for trade finance, to attract foreign investment, and to facilitate the growth of Somali-owned businesses. Your Excellency, ladies and gentlemen, the government has shown it can deliver strong economic reforms. On our side, we are committed to deliver the normalization with the international financial institutions to contribute to bring stability, hope, and prosperity to the people of Somalia. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Felipe, for that remark. Can I now give interventions, starting with Nils of Germany, 3 minutes interventions.
Thank you very much. Your Excellency, the Prime Minister,